Okay, Blender lesson 2. I talked about the camera and the lamp, but now I need to show you the game engine, and that's why we wanted 2.78 so we can have the game engine. Um, Go up here where it says Blender Render and click Blender Game. It's the internal game engine. And if I hit P on my keyboard or play, hit P, there you see. And you hit P, and now you've played your first game. Obviously, there's nothing happening, but that's actually the first game. You notice that cube. You see, why is it? What can you wonder why is that so dark on the left side of that cube? So to get out of the game engine, hit Escape. So you notice that it was dark over here. Well, our lamp or our light source is over to the right side of that cube. So because of the shading, it's going to be the light source is over here, so it's blocking the light or the sun per se. So I'm going to go to camera view. So now camera view, that's what it looks like. Notice it's all there, but when I hit all the lighting is the same, but when I hit P or play, now you see that shading. So you can what I want you to do, hit Escape, come out of the game mode, and I'm going to hit 5. I'm going to go orthographic view, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my lamp and hit G to grab it and move it around, and I'm going to move it behind. Actually, let's move it directly over the top. Hit G, and you got to go from different angles so you can see it from different axes. That looks like it's almost exactly on the top. Okay, so my light source now, my lamp, and you can have different light sources, and we'll do these later. I think there's a sun. If I go Shift A, different types of lamps. You can have a spotlight. You can have a sun, which is like a big light source, specific point of light. Different types of lamps. All right, but for now, let's see what it looks like when our light source is directly to the top. So I'm going to go camera view, hit 0, and then I'm going to hit P to play the game. See? So the light source is coming straight down, and you notice it's shaded all the way around the sides because the light isn't getting to there. So those are things that you need to be aware of when you're creating your games. It's not just the axes, the X, Y, Z axis. You have a lot of different elements within your assignments or your games. Okay, I'm going to come out of camera view, and right now we're in solid view. So this 3D object, it's more a little bit like 2D in a way. There's different ways to change that. If you come down here, I can change it to wireframe, and now we're going to work with wireframe later. Not right now. When we get into edit mode, we will work with that, and when we get into some armatures, you can also, if we go to, let's go to texture. So when I go to texture, you notice it gives you the shading without actually going into the game engine, the player. Remember, before we didn't see this shading until we went into the actual game engine. So you might be able to that's just another output way to look at the different elements of your game. Okay, and then there's other ones in here. 3D cursor. No, that's the wrong one. There's bounding box, which is similar to wireframe. There's material mode and texture mode. We're going to add textures and materials later with colors, and we'll burn images on here, but I just wanted to show you that for right now. The next thing we want to do, let's go back to solid. We want to start adding some properties to this. So we want to go to our logic bricks, our logic panel, and you have different panels over here. This is our transform panel for right now, and you can change all of these. This is your 3D panel. Notice if I come in here, it's the 3D view. I can change all of these. You're going to work with several of these. What we're going to do is the logic editor, but we don't want this panel to be the logic editor. We want this panel down here. So I'm going to raise this up a little bit because we're going to work. This right now is on timeline. We will work with timeline later when we do animation. I'm going to go, it's on the timeline right now. I'm going to change this to logic editor. Okay, and you can hold down your middle mouse button and you can scroll in and out to move that within that panel. Okay, so you can get to where you can see all three of those, and I think I need to increase the. Okay, so now let's do some. Let's make this thing move. Let's do some logic bricks. First, let's go back to solid mode. And then you have your different panels here. And you can move these panels around however you want. Let me get my screen more centered. Like this is the 3D panel. This is where you're going to do most of your work. If I click right down here, takes me, this is the 3D view right here. Down below, this is what we call, that's a timeline. I'm going to pull this up. Go ahead and pull this up so you can see more. This is a timeline. We'll work with this when we do some animation later on. If you click right here, notice this panel is the timeline. But what we want is we want the logic editor. And you have sensors and controllers and actuators. All right. So you have to have a sensor, connects to the controller, connects to the actuator. For like mechanical engineering, they use these a lot, and like the definition would be like the sensor, this takes a physical, like a physical element or a parameter, and it's going to change it over here to an electrical output, and then the actuator is what actually converts the electrical signal to a physical output. So we're taking a physical object and then we're using our controller in the middle that's going to connect it to the actuator, and then the actuator is going to change it to a physical motion or some sort of physical property. Okay? Does that make sense? Probably not. All you need to know is that all these three need to connect for right now for gaming. So we're going to add a sensor. We're gonna say always. Okay, and we're going to say at all, oh, wait, we need to select our object. So now you notice it went away. I don't know what I was selected on. I was probably selected on the lamp. So I'm going to click Control Z and go back. Okay, yeah, because the lamp was the last thing I had selected. So I don't want to add any properties to my lamp. I need to select my cube. I'm going to add a sensor, and I'm going to say always. So at all times, and I'm going to add a controller. And I'm just going to do an AND controller, and I'm going to connect it right here. See that? Now I'm going to add an actuator, and I'm going to do motion. Okay? So and I need to connect my controller to my actuator. Okay? So we're taking a physical object right here, and we're going to do some sort of physical property. Give it a physical property, in this case, motion. And you have location and rotation. So if I just do you can do a couple things. You see this, let me scroll in. If you hit this little arrow, you can go in little increments, or you can actually type it in. I'm going to do 0.5. So 0.5 frames per second. It should, when I come up here, I got to come back to my 3D view, and if I hit P, notice it flew along. Let me scroll out so you can see. It's going to flow, it's going to go along the X axis at 0.5 frames per second. Ready? Watch. P. Boom. And that thing's going to go on forever. Okay? It's never going to stop. I'm going to hold shift down, and I'm going to put this way up in the corner. Okay? Notice how the light changes, the shading. Why does this shading change? Yes, you probably already know. Hit P, because it's getting further away from our light, so there is no light source. Okay, I'm going to hold shift down and my middle mouse button to bring it back in the middle. Now, what do you think would happen if I put a negative 0.5? What's going to happen? Ah, yes, of course, it's going to go in the opposite direction. And I got to come back up here. Whoop. Made a little mistake. Never mind. There we go. Okay, I don't know what I did there. I put a negative 0.5. Boom, hit P, goes in the other direction. How fun is that? Okay, so let's maybe, we want it to go at an angle. So it's going to go along the X and along the Y axis. Let's say at a negative 0.5 also. Let's see what that does. Whoa, that was fast. That was fast. Ooh, yikes. Oh, because it's negative 5, not 0.5. Negative 0.5. Enter. Okay. Now let's see what happens. There we go. See, it's moving along this axis, but it's also moving along this axis, and it's pulling it, so it should move right there for all you people that have done algebra before. Okay. Boom. Ooh, look at that. Fun stuff. Go do that to your cube right now. You don't have to do location. I'm going to go back, add 0 to this, add 0 to this. Now nothing should happen, right? So I hit P. Okay, nothing happens. Escape, come back out. I'm going to zoom in just a little bit. And to move your grid around, I'm holding shift down and my middle mouse button. So if I want to get it in the middle. Okay, now let's do rotation. Let's do the Z. Isn't the Z goes straight up and down. So I'm going to do 0.5 rotation along the Z right here. So it should just go round and round and round. Here we go. Here we go. Let's try. Let's try. And that's going to continue on forever. Okay, until I tell it to stop. Remember, over here, hit escape to stop it. Over here, we said always. Of course, you can change that later, and we're going to learn different parameters here. But for right now, we're just going to do always. So if I want it to go the other way, obviously, I would put a negative in there, and I want it to go fast. So I'm going to put, let's put 3. So I'm going to do a negative 3. So it should rotate the other way and go faster. Let's go back up. Let's hit P. Ooh, looky, looky. There we go. All right. So let's figure out what we're going to do for an assignment. So what I want you to do is I want you to do 6 of these. You can do a cube. Keep this cube. So you already learned Shift A. I'm going to add. Okay, so let's add a monkey, and then to this monkey, you're going to add a sensor, add a controller, add an actuator, and give it some sort of motion. So you're going to have 6 elements on here. I don't care if they're all monkeys. I don't care if they're all spheres or if they're all cubes. Actually, make them different. Let's do that. Let's make them all different, and I want different motion to each one. So this one, right now, this one we rotated. So to my monkey, maybe I'll rotate it in another direction, or I'll make it just fly in a different direction. Okay, so you can practice doing your sensor, your controller, doing your logic bricks right here to 6 different elements, and then you're gonna save it. Can you guess? You're gonna save it as, like we did before, lesson 2 in all small letters, in all lowercase, and then your name in all capital letters. I put Jonathan on there because that's my email. The only person in the world that calls me Jonathan is my mom. But I guess because it's always listed on my email. There we go. All right. You don't have to put your full name. You just put your, put your name on there. If you're Abby, you can put Abby. If you're Abigail, you can put Abby. Just so I know it's you. Okay? Lesson 2, have fun, and I'll let you know how I want you to turn it in later. Good luck.